But we're less than 10 years into this game. Ethereum was created in 2015, right? We're basically just now hitting the 10-year mark of all of this stuff aside from Bitcoin getting created. And the reality is that the regulatory picture, basically up until about 4 months ago, all this stuff was de facto illegal, right? We just now entered into a regime where it's okay to build this stuff. You remember the Libra, right? That was only 2019. The Libra, a regular company saying, I want to build a stablecoin, basically got them dragged in front of Congress and headshot in front of the entire world, right? Now it's a different story. Now you are going to see corporates and lots of other companies that before wouldn't touch crypto with a 10-foot pole now get into the space. The question is there going to be more value creation from private markets? I think the answer overwhelmingly is yes. Almost everything really valuable in crypto has not come from big companies, right? JP Morgan's been in the space for a long time. BlackRock is in the space. Like lots and lots of companies want to engage with crypto, but the reality is almost all the money that's been made is in Binance, Coinbase, Solana, Tether. These are all startups. These are not big companies coming into the space and acquiring all the market share. I think that's going to persist. I think that's fundamental to the way that crypto works, which is why venture capital is interesting.
So let's look at the value creation you mentioned. When you look, let's say, for next 2 years, now with all the changes you mentioned in the US, do you believe a lot of value creation will happen in the US with US companies now finally being able to stay in the country, not going out? Or you believe there's other parts of the world that you find interesting when it comes to innovation and new products coming to the market?
So it's a yes and. It's both true that the US is going to be much more vibrant than it used to be. Obviously the US, given the regulatory picture that was coming out of the SEC, everybody who was in America was being there at their own peril. And most people were leaving, setting up overseas foundations, all these complicated structures. A lot of those people are coming back. At the same time, where is crypto getting adopted? It's not actually in the US, right? In the US, people are investing, but they're not using these products, right? So owning Bitcoin versus using Bitcoin are two very different things. And overwhelmingly you see outside of the US, whether it's in Latin America, whether it's in Turkey, whether it's in Iran, whether it's in, seeing people buying, participating in DeFi in, the broader greater China region. These are all the places where people actually use stablecoins, right? The bigger picture of crypto adoption has always been outside the US. And that's why for us at Dragonfly, we have a big presence in Asia, as well as a big presence in the US. And we straddle both because a lot of the technology is being built by the US. But a lot of the adoption story, the exchanges, for example, the only exchange in the US that matters is Coinbase. And basically the CME, almost everything else is happening outside the US.
So when you see all these companies you're seeing both in Asia and in the US as well, when you see these tokens, the L1s, L2s, and all the innovation coming up, what is the biggest mistake you see founders and entrepreneurs are still making crypto that you wish they wouldn't do or you wish they would learn from others?
Yeah, I mean, they're founders that are very drawn to the shiny thing. And crypto always is a new shiny thing. And the biggest mistake I see a lot of founders make is that they sort of work backwards from what they think VCs want, or they work backwards from what they think Twitter wants, which is, I'm going to create an AI agent, layer one, that has its own exchange built into it, or whatever. They just cram together a bunch of hot ideas into this flaming hot ball of soup or something. And this is usually a mistake. Right? The reality is that what I want to see as a VC is that you really have conviction in something that you see is wrong with the market, not working backwards from what you think you're going to be able to raise money for.
And then when you look at the next 12 months, what are any certain verticals within the crypto ecosystem you particularly like? You believe there's a problem that needs to be fixed and there's actually value creation that could take place there?
Yeah. I mean, in the next 12 months, the most obvious thing is stablecoins. At this point, we're about 2-3 months away from having a stablecoin bill pass through Congress. And that is going to legalize stablecoins and bring them under the Fed's oversight. That now means that, if you use Tether is number one stablecoin in the world, right? Massive amounts of liquidity. And yet you go Google Tether, all you will read is how Tether's a scam, Tether, all this FUD, do they really have the money? We're only months away from Tether now being, and USDC and all these stablecoins, coming under the most robust oversight regime in the world, right? Where the Fed is checking your reserves and making sure, yes, you are fully liquid and you can meet redemptions, right? What that's going to do is going to open the floodgates for all these businesses all around the world to start using stablecoins and feeling safe under a clear regulatory regime, right? What does that do to the rapid adoption of stablecoins around the world? There's so many businesses that need to get built to facilitate. If you're a business in Southeast Asia, you're a business in Korea, you're a business in Singapore, you're a business in the Middle East, and you want to start adopting stablecoins, how do you do it? You're not going to open a MetaMask account and start managing a private key. You're going to have all these things that integrate into more and more financial flows around the world. That's going to be a big build out that needs to happen once stablecoins come under this broader regulatory umbrella.
And outside of stablecoins, any other vertical you particularly like?
Besides stablecoins, I mean, we're always looking at infrastructure. So, you're seeing right now Ethereum starting to talk again about scaling to layer 1. You're talking about, Solana is talking about how they're going to use FireDancer to get a next generation blockchain and scale even more than the way they already are. But there's still a lot of people who are building these next generation blockchains that always excites me. Because at the end of the day, blockchains are still pretty new. Solana, I talked about Ethereum was 10 years ago. Solana is already 5 years old, right? At this point, it's half the age of Ethereum, and it's showing its years, right? The reality, when we saw Trump token launch on Solana, Solana basically fell over. It couldn't handle that degree of load, which tells us if we want not just tens of millions, but hundreds of millions or billions of people on chain, we are not ready for that. There's a lot more infrastructure that needs to get built and a lot more fundamental breakthroughs that need to happen on scaling for us to get there.
It's going to be an exciting couple of months, not only around the world, but also in the US as well.
That's right.
Thank you for being with us. That was Haseeb Qureshi, the managing partner at Dragonfly. Thanks for being with us today at Crypto Weekly on CNBC Arabia.
Are your children prepared for the future of money? Order Decoding Crypto with Henry and Hodler, the #1 new release kids book on Amazon.